It's summer, time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and zero cooking. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite food delivered straight to you. Get Burger King, Subway, Popeyes, and hundreds more local favorites and savor every last bite. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Make your next vacation unforgettable on Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Star of the Seas. It's everything you've loved about every family vacation you've ever been on, with mind-blowing thrills at the largest water park at sea, 7 onboard pools for every level of chill, more than 40 ways to dine and drink, and even more to enjoy at our award-winning private island, Perfect Day at Coco Cay. This is the new Star of the Seas. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Hello and welcome to the I Can Do podcast with Benjamin Lee. We're here to talk about tips and strategies to have an I Can Do mindset. Life is what you put into it. Get the most you can. Here's your host, Benjamin Lee.
All right, we are back. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever you may be. I'm super excited with another fantastic guest on the show, John Kippen. I just hit the record button, but we've already had a fantastic conversation. I know that this is going to be a great encouragement and a great blessing to all of those who are tuning in today. John, thank you so much for being on the show.
It is my ultimate pleasure to be here with you, Benjamin.
Yeah, I am so thankful that you are here today. And for those who are tuning in, maybe you're tuning in for the first time, I Can Do podcast. And John, I don't know if you knew this, but I'll share this because this is going to lead into what I'd like for you to share. I Can Do really got started after I got diagnosed with a heart condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So as you can see in my background, I'm a big Iron Man fan, big Marvel fan. And part of that is, like Tony Stark, I got a piece of metal in my chest. Mine is a defibrillator in the event something happens with my heart. So it's more primary prevention. So this idea of I Can Do, all of us have experienced so many different challenges, setbacks, suffering in our lives. And everybody has a story that I can encourage people and help other people too. And our stories are powerful. And so, John, you have a powerful story that I love for us to dive into. I mentioned to you earlier that I listened to your TEDx talk, and everybody can find that, and we can share some details later on. But I love for you just to share your story and how you are here today and what's taking you on this path.
Thank you. I was born in an upper middle class family in Los Angeles. I had 2 great parents, both attorneys. They provided me a great childhood, went to a nice private school, had everything I could have imagined. Started performing in theater, both behind the scenes and on stage. Became a really good storyteller. Started dabbling in computers. There's a great story in my book, Playing the Hand You Were Dealt, which if you guys listen to the end of the podcast, you'll all get a link to download a PDF copy of, some fun stories about my childhood and how I got in trouble and how I got out of trouble and the opportunities that presented themselves once I learned to stop asking for permission and ask for forgiveness instead. But anyway, so I built a computer consulting company, found a niche, was making good money, bought a house, got in a relationship. Everything was going great. I had no wants. I was happy. And then I was diagnosed with 4.5 centimeter acoustic neuroma brain tumor. And it started out as I had trouble hearing men's voices on the phone in my left ear. And then it progressed to dizziness. Every standing and walking moment, I was dizzy. And when I couldn't stand the dizziness anymore, I went to an ENT and got a prescription for MRI. And I remember going to the MRI center and getting out of the tube, which is a challenge in itself, as I'm claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And I went to the reception desk and I said, "Excuse me, those films you just printed, how much for that set of films?"
Hmm.
And she said, "Oh, John, no, these go to the radiologist. The radiologist in the next couple of days will read the films, write a report, and send it to your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And then your doctor will call you and discuss the results." I said, "No, that wasn't my question.
Mm.
How much to buy that set of films right there? You could print a second set for the radiologist."
Mm.
And no one had ever asked her that question. So
Yeah.
she had called her office manager, and the office manager said $300. So out came my credit card, and I bought those films
Why'd you buy them?
because I wanted to know what the heck was going on.
Okay.
I didn't want to wait the week or so it was going to take to get the diagnosis and the report and make an appointment with my doctor. So I literally drove to my ENT's office without an appointment. And I walked in. I
Wow.
kind of showed him the films through the receptionist window. And he said, "John, okay, come in." And he put the first film on the light board. When he looked at it, he pulled the film down and he said, "John, I think I see something. And excuse me while I make an appointment for you." And he called the most successful, best reputation ear clinic downtown LA and made an appointment for the very next day with a world-renowned brain surgeon that dealt with these kind of tumors. And I said thank you and grabbed the films and went to meet my parents for lunch and kind of told them what was going on, and then drove down the next morning, got there super early, was in the examining room, and I'm sitting on the examining bench, and my senses are heightened. I can still remember the crickling sound of the tissue paper on top of the diagnosing table, right? And the neurologist comes in, and he looks at the film, and then calls one of his colleagues, a neurosurgeon, in, and they look at the films, and they talk to each other, and the neurosurgeon leaves, and the doctor turns around and says, "John, you have this 4.5 centimeter acoustic neuroma. It's killing you. It's displacing your brainstem, and that's what's causing your dizziness. We've already pushed another patient, and we've scheduled you for surgery a week from today.
Wow.
You're going to go deaf in your left ear."
If you didn't have the surgery?
No. You're
Just
going to go through in your left ear. There's nothing we can do about that. There's a chance that we will traumatize your facial nerve, and we'll do our best to prevent that, but there are no guarantees. But if we don't operate quickly, you're a dead man.
Wow.
And then he left the room.
What's going on in your mind as you are processing that? Because it seems like everything is moving fast, and that seems like the hardest thing to do.
It went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
I had so many questions. I didn't bring anybody with me, and, I didn't record the conversation because doctors don't like to be recorded for legal reasons, right? But I should have brought someone with me, and that's a tip to all of your listeners. If you're going in for a diagnosis of something that could be serious, take someone with you, a parent, a loved one, whatever, so they can actually take notes. So that when you get home and you start asking questions, how long did you say the surgery was going to be? What was the recovery time? You don't have to bombard the doctor with questions that he'll never get around to answering. So time flew. I had to put my affairs in order and find one of my consultants that worked for me to take over while I was out for a month. And my parents and I went to a dinner the night before and checked in the hospital the night before. And they said, "Okay, John, try to get some sleep because we're going to come and get you at 7 a.m. And that's when the surgery is going to be." And so I tossed and turned. I maybe got an hour or two of sleep. And like clockwork, the orderly knocked on the door and said, "Okay, John, are you ready to go?" I said, "Do I have a choice?"
Right.
He said, "No, not really." So I remember he says, "Get undressed and get in this gown and hop on the gurney." And as the gurney is taking him down the hall into an elevator to another floor, into a pre-op room, I remember my senses are heightened.
Yeah.
All I can see is the fluorescent lights as I'm being rolled down. But I can feel the coldness of the gurney on my butt. I can feel just my mind going a mile a minute. I remember this doctor putting her face into my face with a mask, saying, okay, we need to shave your head. You want me to do it now or when you're under? And I said, oh, please do it when I'm under. And I remember them saying, okay, count backwards, 5, 4, 3, and I was out.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I'm waking up at surgery recovery 14 to 15 hours later.
Wow.
And it was like I was 30 meters deep in a pool, fighting to get to the surface because I could hear these voices sound like voices beyond. John, are you okay? Wake up. And I didn't really recognize the voices, but I used them to kind of get myself to consciousness. And when I came to, my dad, who was my hero, was sitting on the edge of my bed holding my hand. And I looked around the room and I didn't have my glasses on, so things were kind of blurry, but I didn't see my mom.
You didn't see her?
I didn't see so I asked my dad for my glasses, and I tried to put the glasses on, and I realized at that point my head was bandaged. So I had to figure out how to get the glasses on beneath the bandages, And so my glasses are on kind of cockeyed, but I can see, and I looked across the room, and there stood my mom. And the look on her face was one of horror. What did these butchers do to my poor son John's face? And she was unable to hide her emotions at that point. And in retrospect, looking back, that's where the erosion of my self-confidence started. My own mom, who was supposed to love me unconditionally no matter what, was horrified by the way I looked. How was I supposed to feel?
Yeah.
So I spent a week in the hospital, and I went home and started recovering, and then I coughed. And I touched the back of my neck, and I realized I was leaking brain fluid from the incision. And so I called my dad at work and said, Dad, I think I need to go back to the doctor's office. And so he dropped what he's doing. He drove me back, and they tried to put another pressure bandage on it, but it didn't work. So they scheduled me 2 days later for a second surgery. Fortunately, it was only an hour long, where they could pull belly fat out of my belly to use to fill the hole, because the brain assimilates the belly fat. And my sense of humor, I said, oh, can you take it all? And they said, sorry, John, that's not our job. And so after I got out of the hospital the second time, I went home, and I'm sitting on my couch. The first time I'm starting to heal, and I'm starting to relax because the dizziness had gone. They achieved that as part of the surgery. And within a day or two, I was on the phone with clients and friends and just checking in and making sure everything was going well, but I was exhausted. And I got rid of all the mirrors in my house, except for one I had gotten from my grandfather, which was part of a magic trick. It was the mirror that I used to practice magic so that I could see what the audience would see.
Gotcha.
And the doctor said, every month or so, look in the mirror and see if your face movement is going to come back. So I did that, and to no avail.
So it was instantaneous after the surgery. The hearing loss was instantaneous, the paralysis as well.
And the hearing loss was, not a huge deal. I learned later on, I tell plenty of stories about I'm home, and I lived alone at that point because my girlfriend had said, see ya. And a battery from a smoke detector in my house started chirping because it was low. And I had 5 smoke detectors. And I remember running around my house going, okay, I'm standing under the one in the bedroom and waiting
Yeah.
and waiting. Sure. Okay, it's not that one. Then I run to the kitchen and I stand and I wait and wait and wait. Sure. No, it's not. And I ran through the house, each one of them multiple times. And because the sound would bounce off the walls, I couldn't triangulate it.
Yeah.
So I called my neighbor and woke her ass up at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, Amy, please come over and tell me which smoke detector is keeping me up. She did. And then we got a little step stool and took it down and pulled the battery out.
Yeah.
But I started to get lonely. You know, I had friends I could talk to on the phone, but it just, I was lonely. So I turned to playing poker. Because semi-professional poker, because at a poker table, no one cares what you look like. They just want your money.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to develop friendships with these degenerate gamblers. And that's not who I wanted surrounding me.
Yeah. How long were you playing poker before you realized, no, this isn't
3 or 4 years.
My environment? Okay. What can I ask? What year was the procedure then?
July of 2002.
Okay, July 2002. Okay, gotcha. So now we're around 2005, 2006. You're having obviously these challenges. I'm curious too. Did you ever have conversations with your mom about that moment, or did you ever open up or share, or what happened there?
I actually didn't realize that until I became a speaker. I started going back and, figuring out, how do I tell my story?
Yes.
And how do I identify the key moments in my life that caused me to erode my self-confidence?
Gotcha.
And that memory all of a sudden came back.
Yeah.
And I realized that was the moment that had so affected my self-worth, my self-confidence.
Was that once that moment came back, John, was that a turning point for you? Or it sounds like, or maybe the turning point had already occurred because now you were doing this public speaking. Walk us through that.
The turning point actually was when I revisited my love for performing magic.
Gotcha.
And that was in 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And I went to this wondrous place in Los Angeles called the Magic Castle.
Yeah.
And I joined as a member, and I started practicing and came up with a couple tricks that I could do for people. And I realized how much joy that was bringing me. And then I developed a full 30-minute act that I could perform. And I would sit in front of a table with people watching me, and they were distracted by my face. And they weren't judging me. They were curious. They went, oh, hey, did he have Bell's palsy? Did he have a stroke? So I changed my act, and I would open my act saying, hi, guys. Glad to see you. A little bit about myself. I've been doing magic all my life. And in 2002, I had a brain tumor. And when they cut out my brain tumor, they traumatized my facial nerve, hence the paralyzed face.
Yeah.
But something happened to me on that operating room table. Now, I'm not sure what it was because I was unconscious. All I know is I recovered. I realized I had acquired some new skills. And then I would pause and wait for the audience to get on the edge of their chairs, wanting to know what possible skills I acquired from having brain surgery. And I would look to my right and my left like it's the biggest secret. And I would lean in and whisper in a loud voice, guys, I am able to visualize people's thoughts. And for the first time, that did two things.
Yeah.
One is that answered the question that no one had the guts to ask me.
Yeah.
But two, it shared something personal about me.
Yeah.
Which immediately opened the audience to be interested.
Yeah.
And be engaged and be invested in hearing my story and seeing my magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Let me ask you a question about your magic. So 4 years have passed. you got reconnected with a passion that you had growing up. 2 questions. Where did that passion first start growing up? Was that from your dad, who was your hero? And then what prompted you to go back and say, you know what, it's time for me to reconnect with that passion?
My Uncle Milton, who was the brother of my grandma.
Okay.
And he came into town to visit my grandma, and I was there, and he pulled a quarter out of my ear. And he immediately saw my eyes light up and saw my interest, because I'm a creative problem solver from birth, and I love to know how things worked. And so he showed me how to do that trick. And then every year on my birthday and Christmas, there'd be a trick in the mail from my uncle.
Interesting.
And I'd open the trick and learn it, read the directions, and start performing it. And then he'd come into town sometime that year, and we'd rehearse it together. And that lasted until I was 13 or 14 when he passed away. So that's the answer number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is I was watching TV and I saw a David Copperfield special.
Yeah.
And in the David Copperfield special, there was a segment that was performed at the Magic Castle. And so I started looking up, what is this place, the Magic Castle?
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be amongst these people. I want to be amongst these great magicians.
Yeah.
And again, I lived my life feeling that you got to follow your dreams. You know, you can't fail because you don't try.
Yeah.
I knew I had to go through an audition process, so I put together 3 tricks, which were my strongest tricks. And it wasn't even my sleight of hand that I think made me pass, because my sleight of hand at that time was basic. It was what exuded, the passion that came out of me from performing magic and storytelling and telling my story and making a connection with the audience. I learned very early in my magic career to make the magic about the audience. It's not what I can do. It's what they can do, because magic happens in the minds of the audience. You know, it's the old phrase, you know, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make any noise. Magic doesn't happen in a vacuum. So magic has to be experienced.
Yeah.
You know? But magic teaches a lesson that nothing is impossible. I like to break that word impossible down in 2 words. I'm possible. And when you look at the impossibility and the struggles in your life, the things that are too big for you to challenge, and you break it down into smaller chunks, and you truly believe, not up here, but in your heart, that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And you have to exercise that creativity muscle. You will attract amazing experiences in your life that you would not have had the opportunity if you didn't just do it. Nike's no stupid company, man. Just do it means that's my motto as well.
Yeah, just do it. That's exactly right. I want to pause and pull on a thread that you mentioned earlier and what you just said here. At the very beginning, after the surgery, the first month, and then numerous months afterwards, you had a hard time looking at yourself in the mirror. And then fast forward, now you're going out in public, you're performing magic, you're going through auditions. How long did it take for you to make that decision? I'm going to take that next step. I'm going to walk out the door. I'm going to connect. I'm going to engage. After you said, you know what, I need to get back to this, or I'm ready to get back to this. So you saw Copperfield. Was it instant change? Was it, it's still like another week before you made that decision?
August 3rd, 2017, at 10:41 p.m., I went to my first magic convention in Las Vegas called Magic Live.
Okay.
And I was amongst the greatest magicians in the world. And I mustered the courage to take selfies with these great magicians. And I walked through the convention halls, introducing myself to these great magicians and asking if they would take a picture with me.
Yeah.
And I got home and I uploaded the photos to my computer. And like magic, it dawned on me, if these great minds in magic had no trouble taking a picture with me, what was my problem?
Yeah.
And that was the true beginning of my healing moment. And I knew in that moment that my facial difference did not have to define me if I didn't let it.
Yeah.
And then I didn't care what people thought.
Yeah.
I didn't care that my face was deformed. That's where I got the tagline, being different is your superpower. If you take whatever your difference is and you celebrate it as opposed to hide from it, it becomes your biggest strength. And you attract other people is from this strength. That they don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They just know that they want some of it. And that's really the magic. That was my true magical moment.
Yeah.
Where I got rid of the handcuffs and I didn't have a problem in looking in the mirror when I brushed my teeth. And I didn't have trouble posing for photographs.
Yeah.
And we repaired my self-confidence almost overnight. And the reactions from my audience was just so loving, because now sitting at a table with spectators, I shared something really, really, really personal. And I showed what it manifested itself to, which is me performing A+ magic. One of my favorite stories I tell. I was at the Magic Castle looking for a fun group. And this woman dressed in all baggy black clothes was walking down the hallway. She was wearing this funny looking hat that reminded me of a witch's hat. And she was staring at her feet the whole time. And as she approached, I said, "Hi, how are you?" She stopped. And the look on her face was, "Just leave me a heck alone." I could tell in that moment she didn't want to be there. Or one of her friends must have drug her there. But I caught up with her and her friends and I said, "Hey guys, having a great time?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we are." And I said, "Yeah. But have you seen any really good close-up magic?" And they shrugged their shoulders. And I said, "Come on, let's go." And I brought them over to a little table in the corner with a green felt on it so I could perform magic. And the woman was dressed in baggy black clothes. Her name was Darren. And I put her to my right. I made every magical moment because she did something. She picked a card. She thought this. She did whatever. And within minutes, all of a sudden, she was sitting up straight. And she ditched the hat. And she started to smile. And that was my goal for that 40-minute show. Was simply to get Darren to smile. That was it. And her eyes started to dance. And she started making eye contact.
Yeah.
And I could tell whatever baggage she brought with her were gone. So I finished the show. And audiences normally clap. They thank me. They move on. But this group wanted more. So I shared the story about how I hid from mirrors and cameras for over 12 years. And it was that meeting those magicians and taking photos with me that allowed me to put my new world in perspective, that my facial difference didn't define me any longer.
Yeah.
And she stood up and she motioned for me to stand, and I did. And she gave me one of these hugs that you don't soon forget. It's like you haven't seen your sister in 20 years kind of hug. And she was holding on for dear life. I didn't know what to think. I was just embracing it in the moment and just enjoying it.
Yeah.
What seemed like minutes was probably only seconds. She stood back and she was crying. And she said, "John, I need to share something with you. 4 years ago, I had a double mastectomy because I had the BRCA1 gene.
Wow.
And my mom, my aunt, and my sister, they all had their breasts proactively removed. so they wouldn't get this cancer. And I was the last in the family to do that. And I all of a sudden now was sitting at your table enjoying magic and having an amazing time, even though I didn't want to come that night. And then I heard your story. And it dawned on me that I've been hiding too, by the baggy clothes I wear and the funny hats and my new sarcastic humor and not making eye contact. And I think you just shaved 8 years off of my journey of hiding.
Mm.
And in that moment, she made herself a promise that would be the last night she would hide. And then she had been crying, so she went to the bathroom to wash her face. And one of her friends was sitting there that night. And once she got her jaw off the ground, she said, John, you don't understand. We've known Darren since college. And we've been trying to support her through the last 4 years of her coming to terms with the fact that she didn't have breasts anymore. And you did in 30 minutes what we've been trying to do for 4 years. And I fell back into my chair, totally overwhelmed, because I had no understanding that I could touch, just me being myself and sharing my story, touch someone so deeply to get them to get out of their own way and make a promise to themselves with us witnesses that hiding had become her biggest foe.
Yeah.
And that she was going to get out of that habit. And in that moment, and in other moments similar where I shared my magic with people who were going through cancer, and Alex Trebek was one of them, and all of these now lifelong friends, I realized I had a gift. People say, John, if you had to go back prior to your surgery and you could have taken a pill to get rid of that tumor and avoid the physical scars and the emotional scars, would you? And my answer is no. Because I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be the leader I am today. Because I lived my life by example. And that's why resilience and empowerment coaching has been so important to me. Because I've helped so many hundreds of people.
Is that where your coaching was born?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a coach.
Yeah.
But I've never been an organized coach until I realized that is my superpower of helping people learn how to get out of their own way and start dreaming again and achieving their dreams.
So you said, when you say this helps you get organized, what are you talking about? Just like LLC? No, I need to take this seriously. Were you still an IT analyst and say, well, no, I'm leaving all that behind and I'm focusing on magic and coaching? In that way of getting you organized, or that next push?
I still do it all.
Still do it all. Okay.
Because I enjoy my IT consulting company. It's not a passion of mine anymore. Because the world of IT has changed since the pandemic. IT has changed, and it's not as fulfilling as it used to be anymore. But my life is all about relationships with people, and I have people who I've had as clients for 20, 30 years, and I'm not about to leave them high and dry because they turn to me with their IT problems, and they know that I might not know the immediate solution, but I'm certainly going to figure it out for them.
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis was one of those clients who was introduced to me.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you at some point in time, because I saw how she introduced you to your documentary, I believe, online, the forward in the book and the photo back there. So, gotcha. That's the connection there.
So I went over to her house for the first time, and I sat in front of the computer, and she sat next to me. And first of all, she was a little impatient. Why is it taking so long? This is a computer. It should be easy. It should be 1, 2, 3. And I just smiled and just said, Jamie, good things take time. And this is before my surgery. But she got to trust me. She got to know that I had her best interest in mind, and I was not going to leave before the solution was provided.
Mm.
And then I went through my surgery, and she was one of the few clients that I actually went out and visited after my facial paralysis.
Gotcha.
And
what did she do that helped you so much, that kept you connected?
She adopted me.
What do you mean?
She adopted 2 kids, one named Annie, one Tommy.
Gotcha.
And she just sensed who I was.
Yeah.
She sensed my pain.
Yeah.
And she wanted to be my cheerleader.
Nice.
She wanted to do everything to move me forward in my life. And we just became lifelong friends. I remember giving her a gift. She was an amateur photographer herself, and she had photos all over our house that she had taken. But there was no portrait of her family. I was an amateur photographer at the time. So I said, Jamie, okay, find a date on your calendar where you can all be here and get in your nicest clothes, because I'm coming over and I'm taking a family portrait of you guys. And she was touched. She was just like, you're gonna do what? Yeah, I'm gonna take a family portrait because I don't see any photos in your house.
Yeah.
Of the 4 of you.
Yeah.
And so I did. I came over and, I spent all the costs of, I went into Photoshop and air touched it a little bit and had it printed huge. And I had it professionally framed. And I went over to her house and presented it to her as a birthday gift. And then that was really the moment where she was invested in my success, because she saw my generosity. She saw me willing to go out of my way to do something nice for someone else, despite the cost of my time and the couple $100 I invested in the framing and the printing of the print and the time I invested.
Yeah.
Another really pivotal moment was after I'd done my TED Talk, which has over 1 million views, which I'm still amazed how.
Yeah, that's awesome.
1 million people could view my TED Talk in the last 7 years. But a filmmaker friend of mine who worked for one of my computer consulting clients said, John, I love your story. I want to film a documentary on you. And I said, okay. And then, unfortunately, I realized that I would be paying for the documentary.
You'd have to pay for the documentary?
But at that point, I was all in.
That's still pretty cool. Yeah.
And so I remember being at Jamie's house, sitting in front of a computer, staring at the screen. And my brain is saying, do I ask? Don't I ask? Do I ask? Can I ask? Do I ask? Can I ask? And I said, okay, I'm going to ask. And I guess she could sense that turmoil on my head, because I shared the story about how Ryan was going to film a documentary on my story and my life. And all of a sudden, there's quiet. And she said, and I'm stopped in my tracks. I don't really know what she's asking. And she says it again. And I turned to look at her and I said, Jamie, will you be in my documentary?
Yeah.
And she opened her calendar. I got my director on the phone.
Wow.
And we got together and we picked 2 days where she would make herself available to film scenes in my documentary.
Wow.
And she saw something in me. She saw the power in myself, in my story, and in my bones, that she knew that story needed to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to be the storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
And we've become lifelong friends. We talk multiple times a month.
Yeah.
Even with her busy schedule, she just call me or text me, "Hey, how you doing? I'm thinking of you."
Yeah.
And
That's
back and
awesome.
forth. We have one of those really deep relationships.
That's good. Yeah.
I
Well, that's
told her,
such a.
I
Oh,
told
sorry.
her
Go ahead.
about the book, and she was like, "And do you have anybody writing her forward?" And I'm like, "I was hoping you would do it." Okay. And literally 2 hours later, I had a rough draft of the forward of my book.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just,
Yeah.
you got to live your life as your authentic self,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is that you're hiding from,
Mm.
no matter where your issues of self-confidence come from.
Mm-hmm.
You need to wear your issues of your scars on your short sleeves as a badge of honor,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what makes you you. What makes you attractive, that you're willing to not only share your biggest issues in your life, but you're able to inspire others through your resilience and how you overcame those things in your life. That's why,
Yeah.
when I got certified to be a life coach, multiple places, they said, "Okay, so what kind of life coach are you going to be?" And I said, "I hate the term life coach, because everybody's a life coach nowadays. Life coach doesn't tell you anything about who I am and what you're going to learn from working with me." So I coined it as resilience and empowerment coach. And you hear that, you go, "Okay, I know
Sounds good.
exactly what John's mission is. I know exactly what I'm going to get out of it. And if I'm feeling stuck in my life and I need to exercise that resilience muscle that we all have and start taking risks slowly and stop caring about what other people think, but just embracing our skills, our humanity, our points of view, and give to others." That's what coaching is all about,
Mm-hmm.
is giving my clients a safe space to look deep inside of themselves and finding what self-made obstacles are standing in their way.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, with a coaching client, within 2 sessions, I've kind of figured out what their stumbling blocks are.
What do you see as some of the more common stumbling blocks with this idea of people getting out of their own way? Is it the people pleasing? Is it a bad experience? Sometimes that happens, like with public speaking. People have a bad experience and say, I'm never going to speak again." What
Yeah.
seems to be a pattern that you've noticed?
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
So good, so good, so good.
Ready to rack to school and save big? Get to your Nordstrom Rack store today for thousands of deals from just $20.
Because I want to look fresh.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
I got a new backpack.
Score everyone's favorite denim, sneakers, boots, and activewear from Nike, Levi's, Steve Madden, Madewell, and Free People. Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack. Shop Nordstrom Rack and make it the best school year ever.
Adversity. A moment of adversity in their life. I have one client who wanted to start a new business. She wanted to start a coaching business because she and I went through the same coaching program. And by the end of the coaching program, I built my website and started marketing myself and started getting new clients. And she called me, John, and she said, "John, how how have you made it so far? I'm still buying books. I'm still taking more courses. I'm still learning. And I said, the one thing, and I'm not going to use her name, but the one thing you're not doing is doing.
Yeah.
You need to just roll up your sleeves and try something. And so she became one of my first coaching clients. And after we built a rapport over the first couple of sessions, I did what all good coaches say. Tell me about your upbringing. What was that like? And she shared with me that her mom died when she was very young, and she lived with her dad. And her dad kicked her out on her 18th birthday and said, okay, you are now an adult. Go fend for yourself. Follow your dreams. And she felt abandoned at that moment. And so she turned to the first job that could bring her a decent paycheck. And it was being a topless dancer at a dance club. And she was going to make good money to afford an apartment and afford a nice lifestyle. And then her dad and she were having a conversation. Her dad said, so what are you doing? How are you making money? And she said, well, I'm a dancer at this club. And her dad said to her, yeah, that's what I thought you'd probably do. And she said it like it was matter of fact. And I stopped her in her tracks and I said, say that again out loud and listen to the words you were saying. Yeah, my dad said that's what he thought I'd probably do. And I said, that's the beginning of the erosion of your self-confidence. If your one parental figure didn't have the hope of what you could achieve and just assumed you would sell yourself by dancing for strangers to make money, that was his first thought. How did that define your self-worth? And all of a sudden she had a light bulb moment. She started crying. And I said, please, before he passes on, you need to call your dad and tell him that was not okay. That has been the roadblock that has prevented you from taking action in every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm.
That is why you've been a part of multiple failed relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't celebrate who you were. You weren't proud of yourself. You didn't love yourself because of that comment that your dad made to you.
Mm-hmm.
So in our next session, I'm waiting with bated breath. She said, John, I called my dad. And he didn't remember saying that.
And yeah, that's such a sad thing.
And I told him what you said, that Dad, that was not okay.
Yeah.
That has affected me to my core. That if my dad couldn't love me unconditionally, how was I supposed to love myself unconditionally? How was I supposed to move forward in my life? And from that moment on, she bought her website and she started her coaching business. And she's now thriving. It's just, sometimes it's a little thing that someone says to you that they don't even remember.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, John, just hearing that people don't always understand, and who knows what happened in his life, but people don't always understand the impact and power of their words. And the person that suffers the most is the person on the receiving end.
Yeah.
But that person they've just gone on with their lives and they're like, what are you talking about? Which makes it even more tragic because she was stuck in that situation. And, my dad growing up, my mom and dad had a good marriage for the first 7 years. And then he got into social drinking. He would go bowling league and things like that. You drink and whatever. And but then he got really heavy into drinking and got physically abusive. And so I saw that, and it has an impact on you. And one of the things a preacher told me, you replicate the good and you repudiate the bad. That's a hard thing to do sometimes and I had one of those conversations with my dad. I was remembering, I don't know if I was like in college or right out of college, but filling in and preaching out of church. And I was talking about forgiveness. And I was like, I don't know if I've ever forgiven him. There's a lot of things that happen. And I had a conversation like that. And it's interesting because you kind of forget things. And, but it was so healing to be able to go face to face. There's some things I need to share with you. I need to get off my chest. And it really does. It does free you of a lot of things just to at least have a conversation. The person may not remember it, but if nothing else, you still have that opportunity to share, that actually hurt me. And it's important for them to know that as well.
So that's one of the key steps in my 14-week resilience and empowerment coaching. I'm a creative problem solver. Mm-hmm. So I have looked at my own journey and identified areas of my life where I learned something, where I found value. And so I structure my program to share some of those insights that I learned recovering from the trauma of having my face paralyzed.
Yeah.
The trauma of going deaf in my left ear. The trauma of the reflection of my in a mirror is not the person I used to be, and embracing the person that I have become. And that is what fills my heart. Yeah, I charge money to do it because I have to. But it's the transformations that I see through my clients that keeps me going, that keeps me getting up out of the bed in the morning every morning.
Yeah.
Knowing that I have an opportunity to change people's lives one interaction at a time. That's why I choose coaching over speaking. Because speaking, you can get a message out, but you don't know who you resonate with.
Who's it landing with? Yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
But in a one-on-one coaching situation or a group coaching situation, you know exactly who's getting what you're saying.
Yeah.
And communication is a two-way street. You need to communicate, and you got to look in their eyes to see if they're glossed over. They don't really understand what you just said, but they don't have the strength to say, wait a minute, explain that in different terms. I didn't quite get that. And I can see that in their eyes. So I stop and I say, okay, let me put it this way. And I keep on trying a different tact to communicate it until I see that light bulb go off in their head. And so now these ideas become their ideas. It's not just what I told them, it's what resonated with them, and they have the courage to adopt them as their mantras. And that's when lasting change happens.
Yeah. There's a book you make me think about, The Big Leap by Gay Henderson. And very interesting, very great book. And I like the motto that he has, and I've adopted it. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day while inspiring others around me to do the same. And that's what you're doing. That's what it sounds like. You're inspiring people, you're helping people, you're uncovering things. Right. I'm curious too, you had these breakthroughs, you've done a TED Talk, you're doing podcasts, you're doing coaching. Do you ever have moments where some fear does come up or some fear does creep in about, I'm going to get on this stage? Or sometimes people may think, well, man, is it possible just to eradicate that fear completely? Have you ever had moments like that where you do start having some more doubts, or you do start thinking, I wonder what people are going to think? or has it just completely been washed away?
Again, Benjamin, I'm a creative problem solver.
Okay.
Started when I was a kid with my erector sets and my Legos, to getting in high school and playing with computers, and then getting into theater and so forth. The understanding the creative process, that you could achieve anything if you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was used to being on a stage in front of people performing in high school and college. So, but yeah, there were times where I had butterflies in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Most times those butterflies were caused because you weren't prepared well enough.
Mm.
You hadn't taken the time to really put in the time. You
Mm-hmm.
thought, hey, I can do this off the cuff. But I developed a secret, and I'll share it with you.
Okay.
When I did my TED Talk, I walked on, ready to walk on stage in front of almost 1,000 people. And I was feeling butterflies in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the MC, I went to the organizer and said, let me be first. And they were like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that, because no one else wanted to be first. And truth be told, it was a very selfish way, because I'm a big guy and I start to sweat when it gets warm in a room.
Yeah, I sweat a lot too.
And I didn't want to be fifth or sixth, where the heat from the audience and the heat from the lights all raised the room temperature 6 or 7 degrees, right? So I wanted to get in and out.
Yeah.
But so the MC was standing backstage, ready to go on to introduce me as the first speaker. And I pulled out a magic trick. And I turned Monopoly money into real money. With a story about how this was the game my parents and I would play every Sunday. And as a kid, I always wanted to be just like my dad, who had lots of money in his wallet. And so I stuffed Monopoly money into my wallet so I could walk around feeling like my dad, right? But then I realized that doing so, turning Monopoly money into real money, is actually called counterfeiting. And the last thing a 7 or 8-year-old wants to do is go to the federal pen for counterfeiting.
Yeah, that's right.
So the money only stays visible for 5 or 6 seconds, and then it goes back to Monopoly money again.
Wow.
So I did this trick for the MC of this thing, and it was a 1 to 2 minute presentation. And all of a sudden now he's jazzed. He's excited. He just saw a miracle. So we went on stage, and he told that story to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And he won that audience, so that when I walked out on stage, I had everybody's undivided attention. You could hear a pin drop. Mm-hmm. No one was checking their phones. No one was talking to their neighbor. No one was distracted, because they were going to see magic.
Yeah.
Both in my presentation of my story, my messages, and the magic that I incorporated into my TED Talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do that every time I go out. What better way to warm an audience is have the MC do it for you?
That's right. Yeah, that was very smooth. I love that. Two or three thoughts. One, you handled the lights going off in the middle of your TED Talk with perfection. And I was thinking, when the lights went off, I was like, oh boy. Yeah. And I was thinking magic. And that's exactly what you said. I was like, that was so smooth. So I really enjoyed seeing that. Not that the lights went off. That would be a scary thing too.
The funny story is, I'm in the middle, and it was a memorized talk, and I get to a point, and all of a sudden the front lights go out.
Yeah.
And I respond like, whoa! Not knowing really what to do. And fortunately, 5 seconds later, the lights came back up.
Yeah.
And my first thought was just to raise my hand like a and say, magic.
Magic, yeah, it was perfect timing.
And it got the audience to laugh.
Yep.
And then I finished, and I walked off stage. And the producer of the event came up and said, John, don't worry, we will edit that out of the recording. And I said, don't you dare.
No, it was
That
perfect.
was my finest moment.
Yeah.
She said, okay, John, we'll leave it in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
it.
I'm proud of that moment. And yeah, I got lost in my script. I skipped a paragraph, but I was able to, no one knew it but me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it made me be present.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many speakers get on stage and they memorize their script.
I was going to ask you, is it true that TEDx talks force you to stay on script and memorize it?
They suggest you memorize it.
Okay. They don't want you like going off topic or saying like controversial things.
You have 12 to 13 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you go off topic, you tend to go much longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a schedule. They got 10 speakers, and then they need to do in a specific amount of time. So they want you to be on focus,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and on time. I remember I didn't know what doing the TED Talk was. So fortunately, a friend of mine is a professional writer, and he had helped other people write their TED Talk. So I turned to him, and he helped me craft my message and craft my speech. And I gave it to the producer of the event 2 months before my event, just to get her feedback. And she emailed me and says, John, you've had some help, haven't you? And I said, whatever do you mean?
Yeah.
She said, no, cut the bull crap.
Yeah.
You had someone help me because this is one of the best first drafts of a TED Talk I have ever been presented.
Can you share who helped you with that, or is that personal? You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm curious.
Sure. His name is Michael Varna.
Okay. Huh.
And he charged me a whole nothing.
Oh, wow.
To do it.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
I'm always, yeah.
I learned from him that you get invested in other people's success.
Yeah.
And then they succeed, you get paid back much more than money.
Yeah. Tenfold. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious because, you know, I'm a preacher and I write every week, and I do public speaking coaching as well. So I'm always curious who's out there, and it's such a craft, and I've gotten a lot more into movies, and I'm always fascinated with script writing and just I don't know, it's just an amazing talent, you know, to be able to do that and to craft certain things. And I had a friend who was talking about TEDx. So that's where that question came in about, well, no, you have to have everything memorized or scripted. And so that's a hard thing to do. I teach people how to have like pillar systems. Did you memorize yours? Were you trying to memorize it word for word, or did you have like pillars or like stories that would, okay, here's my story here, and I'm going to hit these 2 or 3 thoughts here. How did you categorize that or create that in your head?
When I got to the venue, it was funny. When I got to the venue early that morning, I walked up on stage and put my jacket on a chair and set it on my bag. And there was a student, because it was at a university, SDSU. There was a student in a lift focusing the lights, and he was doing a bad job. And so I remember looking up to the guy in the lift, and I said, "Hey, can I give you a hand?" And I was ready for the producer to come out and say, no, John, you're the talent. You go to the green room. We have some bagels and cream cheese and some drinks. Go back there and relax, and we'll call you when it's time.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She could tell that my skills being an actor and working in theater were going to make the event a success.
Gotcha.
And so I said to him, you know, the red circle, the TED circle, way too far upstage, because now the lights are going to cast a shadow of the speaker against the projection screen. You need to bring that circle downstage and open up so that, you know, because I did in my TED Talk, I brought 2 spectators up to help with a magic trick.
I remember that. Yeah.
And so I didn't want the light so focused just where I was standing. I
Gotcha.
wanted it opened up so they would be in light when they came up on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spent the next 45 minutes relighting the TED Talk show. So that is another reason, I was so engulfed in doing that then it was time for the house to be let in. So I didn't really have time to think about it.
You didn't have time to worry about it, yeah.
But I had a friend of mine who knew I was coming. He was my director. And so I gave him a set of cue cards. And I sat in front row.
Mm.
And it just had the order.
Gotcha.
It wasn't the script. It was just the order in case somehow there was some distraction and I got lost.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He could point to, okay,
yeah.
you're here.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Just to give me that sense of,
mm-hmm.
to relieve that feeling of panic if I were to get lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that I had to use it once. But, I'm telling my own story.
Yeah.
So I could ad lib. Mm-hmm. Some of the specific language, I messed up, but I got the message across, and that's really
right.
what.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I had another question I was going to ask you. I apologize. It slipped my head. Oh, I remember now. I'm always curious with preparation. So when you're performing for a show, a magic show, you talked about preparation and how that can help. How much preparation time do you put in with practicing your tricks and stage presentation and speaking and all of that?
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Your earbud fell in a coffee cup. You need a taco pick-me-up. When modern life gets rough, grab the timeless taste you love. Paso, the old El Paso.
I have performed in my lifetime over 3,000 close-up shows.
Wow.
So from time to time, I add a new illusion. But I have my core. I have a 20-minute show and a 45-minute show. And I know the tricks, how they weave together with the story. It's second nature to me. So I don't practice. My hands just do the magic, do the sleight of hand. What I work on is the presentation, is making that connection with my audience, learning their names. I introduce myself and I get this 10 or 15 people within earshot of me to say their names. And I learn from different memory experts. How do you remember those names in the moment? And I practice that. Because when you name someone by name, they're immediately, oh, he's talking to me. So they're immediately in the moment and paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes an amazing audience management tool. If you see someone sitting on their phone and doom scrolling in Facebook or Instagram, whatever, I would call them by name.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, they don't hear the question. They just hear that I called their name.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody around them is looking at them, waiting for their answer. And they have to get the courage to say, I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Mm-hmm.
That is the last time. It's the last time they will not pay attention.
That's exactly right.
By their phone.
Yeah.
And I use that as an audience management tool. The one word in everyone's life that they like to hear the most is their own name. And so you reinforced every point. When I would make a point, it's to one person, one thought. One person, one thought. And I say their name, one, so I can remember it. The more times I say it, and I can identify the person's look to their name, I'm not about to forget it. But it also is like I'm talking directly to them, that there's no one else in the room, that I'm completely entranced and focused on them. And that's who the magic is made for. People respect that. People are impressed and entranced by that connection. It's all about, for me, it's all about making a connection with somebody.
Yeah.
And letting my messages of hope and resilience empower them to get out of their own way.
Yeah. For those listening, you mentioned how you've looked at your life, and I appreciate your time, and I want to be respectful of it too. Can you give the audience an exercise or something for them to think about? And maybe even some of them will sign up and get some coaching from you. But what might be an exercise that someone could do right now where it could help them maybe to get a little bit more unstuck, or to doubt their doubts, or the story that they've been telling, rechanging or shifting that story to help them to dream more, to help them to ask the tough question or make the request like you did with Jamie Lee Curtis, or just speak out like you did with getting your medical records?
Live every day like it's your last. Understand that we are on this earth for a very short period of time. And you could be diagnosed with cancer. You could get hit by a bus. You could fall off a cliff. Whatever. But life is worth living. And you need to fill every moment with things that you're proud of. And things not only you're proud of, but you encourage others to do the same through your actions. Life is about giving your gifts to others and raising them up off and getting them out of their own way. And not necessarily because you wanted it back in return. You're just doing it to help them. During the pandemic, I invented this game called Rolodex Roulette. And for your listeners who don't know what a Rolodex is, it's this little spiral thing with pieces of paper stuck in an alphabetical order that you would write someone's contact in from down. And you would spin it until you found their name and pick up the phone and dial it. Well, now we all have a cell phone that has a contact list. So the way you play Rolodex Roulette is you pull up your contacts and you turn the phone away from you and you blindly scroll up and down for 3 or 4 seconds. You stop on a name. And that's the person you call that day, just to check in with.
I love that.
It may be someone you talked to 2 days before. It may be someone you talked to yesterday. Or it may be someone you haven't talked to in years. Or it may be someone you had a falling out with. And you don't want to be the first person to mend that fence, to reach out and realize how stupid your argument is. And most of us don't even remember the specifics of those arguments. We just know we're not about to be the first person to reach out. Well, playing this game gives you the plausible deniability. You say, hey, Benjamin, John Kippen, hey, before you start, I just wanted to say, I've been playing this game I learned from my friend. It's called Roulette, and I was going up and down on my contact list, and I landed on the name, and you're it. How are you? And so no one had to be the first person to reach out. The game made that connection.
I love it. I love that game. Yeah. I'm
And,
going to do it.
and your other person on the phone, all of a sudden you start having a real conversation. And maybe the thing that comes up in the conversation is what hurt both of you.
Mm.
You know, and you can say, but I never realized that. Or I'm sorry, I didn't do that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever it is that was that flight you had. And all of a sudden, by the time you end the phone call, the other person is saying, God, I love that game. I'm going to start playing it.
Mm.
And the number of amazing conversations you have by being selfless and calling Benjamin and just saying, hey, what have you been up to?
Mm-hmm.
Or even more, you see, we all use Facebook and Instagram to share what's on our mind, you know? And sometimes people will post something that's, in your opinion, out of their character.
Mm.
It's like, hey, wait a minute, that was kind of dark.
Mm.
That's not the person I know. And most people just keep on doom scrolling. Oh, he's having a bad day, and leave it at that. Not me. I stop in my tracks. I stop what I'm doing, and I call that person and say, hey, Benjamin, you know, I saw that post you did on Facebook, and it sure didn't sound like you. What's going on? You come from a place of love. You come from a place of understanding and generosity. And they tend to open up. Yeah, I'm having a hard time. This is what I'm dealing with, or whatever. And you start offering ideas of support. You don't tell them how to solve their problems. You just tell them they're not alone. And you make sure that they know that anytime they're depressed, they have someone they can call that's going to take the time to be present with them. I have thousands of people in my life now playing that game.
Mm.
It's just amazing exercise. And it brings you peace.
Yeah.
It brings you that feeling of accomplishment. Hey, I helped Benjamin today.
Mm-hmm.
And his life is better because I took the 10, 15 minutes out of my day to call him and just say, hey, what's going on? You don't seem like yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I've stopped people from contemplating suicide just by reacting and being willing to break that friendship.
Yeah.
By making that phone call. You got to be willing to have them delete your number from their phone or block you.
Take the risk, yeah.
That's the risk you're really taking.
Mm.
You're going to lose that person as a friend for life. You got to be willing to do that. And I think that happened to me once in the thousands of times I played that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also established friendships. I mean, my birthday was on the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I have 4,500 Facebook friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I had people I hadn't talked to take time out of their day to wish me a happy birthday. And it was in the thousands of people who took 30 seconds out of their day to wish me a happy birthday.
Yeah.
And I replied each of them saying, thank you, my friend. That meant the world to me.
Yeah.
You know, that's all you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I use the birthday calendar in Facebook as a way of calling someone on their birthday. And in my really horrible singing voice, I sing them happy birthday. And every once in a while I'll forget. And they'll call me saying, hey, where was my birthday serenade this year? I was so looking forward to talking to you on my birthday.
Yeah.
All we have in life, my friend, is the relationships with friends and family. That's the notches on your belt. That's what we should be embracing and enjoying. and collecting
Yeah.
friendships and relationships.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Well said. I told you off air, but I'll mention it here. June 22nd, we were in a car accident going to worship services, and a Jeep ran a stop sign, hit the car next to us, that hit us. And so that's been I've had different moments, and, I call it your IT, your it moment. And we all have that moment, your surgery, this car wreck. And I'm so thankful that I was able to unbuckle, and my son and my wife are okay. There's some, mental components of it, they kind of have to process. And my son's friend was in the back seat, and thankfully he's okay too. That was pretty scary, and the airbags, but it really it's gotten me thinking that too, John. And I mentioned that last week when I got up to preach. I was crying before I got up, and you're just emotional. But I just mentioned, hey, I don't know how many more sermons I have. I got no idea. And every day we got to make it count. And so I appreciate you. And I recorded a podcast earlier today, the day of this recording. So, just opportunities to talk to people that you may never get I may never get this opportunity again. So it's just like, embrace these moments and enjoy these moments. And you've been a big inspiration to me today. And this has been fantastic. So
I'll tell you one last story before we end.
Yeah, please. Yeah, share.
So as I said, I spent 12 years learning how not to hide my face.
Yeah.
Learning how to celebrate my differences and put aside from it.
Yeah.
And what happened to all of us in March of 2020?
Yeah.
The pandemic hit.
COVID. Yeah.
And wearing a facial covering became not only politically correct, but government mandated.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and said, no. And I got online and I found a company, and I uploaded a picture of the lower part of my face. And I had them print the lower part of my face on my face masks.
Wow.
And those are the masks I would wear in public. And strangers wouldn't understand. They would look at it and just go on. But people who knew me, they would do a double take. And they'd look at it and go, oh. And I'd see the light bulb go off. And what they learned in that moment is John chooses never to hide again, even through a global pandemic.
Yeah. Wow.
And I share that story in every one of my speaking engagements. It's who you show up as, how you show up. You show up with integrity. You show up with a mission, and you're not going to let anything get in its way. And that's just a perfect analogy.
Yeah, I love that.
How to live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Being who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And not being who others want you to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
One more question I got to ask.
Yes, sir.
What's next for John Kippen?
The end of July, I'm directing a close friends magic show that premieres at the Ahern Hotel in Las Vegas. Never directed a magic show before in my life. But he saw in me a sensibility and how I think out of the box. And he had enough trust to hire me as his director. And so that's immediately what's next.
Yeah.
Building a client base of people who I can help get out of their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a structured program that lasts 14 weeks, but it really is customized towards who you are and what you're going through.
Yeah.
And the areas in your life you want to have an epiphany or you want to overcome.
Yeah.
How you want an area that you need to rebuild resilience in, an area in your life you need to be empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these sections in my course, they're all common sense. but I incorporate examples from my life on how these core principles, if you call them, allowed me to live with joy every day.
Yeah.
And after all, that's the meaning of life for me, is to live each day with as much joy and bring as much joy to yourself and the people around you, no matter what your religious beliefs. That's our goal while we're physically on this planet, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, you've been a great joy to me, and I'm happy that you had interest on being on the podcast, and your story is it's a fantastic story, and I appreciate your courage and your willingness to inspire so many other people. And so I want to make sure you know that I appreciate you and thank you so much. And where can people find you if they want to work with you or listen to you more? And I'll put some things in the show notes. And you mentioned as well sharing something at the end of the episode for those who have listened. So I'd love for you to share that before we sign off too.
Simply go to my website.
Okay.
My name, John, Kippen, K as in King, I, T as in Paul, P as in Ball, E, N as in Nancy.com.
Okay.
There's a link to buy my book. And if you use that link, you'll get a signed, personalized copy mailed to you. It's my book is a motivational memoir of the things that I did to get out of my own way, the lessons I learned, the trouble I got into, and they are fun stories. It's filled with QR codes, which take you to a secret area on my website that allows you to watch me performing paralysis.
Awesome.
That allows you to see the documentary that Jamie Lee Curtis co-starred in. Okay. I teach a magic trick. It's because I was a theater geek that there are no chapters in the book. It's all acts and scenes.
Yeah.
And when you get to the intermission, you scan a QR code and I teach you how to do a magic trick.
That's awesome.
And that magic trick is how to present a business card or a credit card to a server and make yourself memorable.
Oh, I love it. I love it. My son and I, we've been kind of going back and forth. I know one card trick.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I'll make a deal with you, man. This is in this room here. We call it our collectible room. So we have some different things in here. And I said, okay, you can have this or you give me this and I'll share with you this one card trick. So now it's like a competition. His mom and him, they must be on YouTube or something because he's learned a few more tricks. I'm like, where are you getting this? So I'm behind right now. So I need to learn that trick, and I may need your help with some other stuff too. But I love the different magic tricks for sure.
Before I give the link to the free download, I want to ask you a favor.
Okay.
Think about our talk today.
Okay.
And any of the topics that inspired you, and you went and you said, that's a great insight. Incorporate that in your next sermon to your congregation. And just share my passion, share what I've learned, share my methodologies with your congregation.
Okay.
As an example of how to get out of your own way and to enjoy your life and contribute to other people's lives. Whether or not it's the story about the facial mask after the pandemic or any of the stories, or read the book and then take a story out of there and share that as a lesson to your congregation about how to show up in your lives and how to live being authentic despite what other people might judge you.
Okay. I will. There was two things, and we're recording this on a Monday. I actually started writing a sermon. I'm going to call it The Next 100 Years, and just kind of talking about the future our congregation has been around for a long time, but congregations die. And there's an example of the Kodak company where I think they started in 1906, and they had a vision of being around for like 100 years. And they're still around, I believe, not as strong as they used to be, but nonetheless, it's like, that's pretty impressive that 100 years later, that company is there. But you said something else too, John, because my wife is waiting on her x-ray for her finger, and it's been almost a week. So when you shared your story of, well, how much for those prints? That was one of those moments where I said, yeah. And I was like, we just need to go over there and get them. It's like, this is just wasting time. So I love that aggressive nature of, and maybe it's not even aggressive. It's just being, well, no, let's just do it now. Let's just get it done now. So
our medical system in the United States is so backwards.
Yeah.
There are too many patients for as many providers.
I know.
And the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the grease.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, I'm going to mention that to her when we sign off here. Yeah. And
it's not, they'll get to it. I'm okay.
Yep.
No, you're in pain. You can't bend your finger like you used to. You can't turn your key in your front door because it hurts too much. You can't.
Yeah.
It's keeping you from living your life pain-free.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
The sooner you get it dealt with, the sooner, the better.
That's right.
And if a doctor can't take the time to make you a priority, when you say, hey, I need to be in a priority, then it's time for you to find another doctor.
Yeah.
Because trust me, there are doctors who will make you a priority if you present it like, hey, this is affecting me more than you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to spend the 10 minutes of writing that prescription or doing whatever you do, or making a call to radiology centers. Hey, where is that darn x-ray?
That's right.
That's all it takes on their behalf.
Yeah.
That's right. They'll farm it off to their assistant anyway. But it'll get done. And you can move forward in your life.
That's right. Yeah.
And I can tell more stories about my deals with doctors. And you can edit this out later if you want, if it's too long.
But I'm going to keep it. Yeah. No, this is great.
I had my tonsils taken out as an adult. I think I was like 23.
Mm.
And that's a scary idea. As a kid, you don't know what's happening, and it's out, and you're able to eat ice cream, and you're able to get days off school, and you heal really quickly, and you can focus on television or whatever and so forth. But my doctor took the tonsils out and my adenoid and said, all right, John, I give you permission. You can eat as much ice cream as you want. I was like, okay. So that's the silver lining in all of this. So on the way home, we stopped by the local convenience store, and I got a couple pints of Rocky Road and got home. And the first thing I did was get a spoon and start eating ice cream.
Hey, I like that, man. Have you ever had Bluebell ice cream?
I have.
Okay. You like it?
Yeah. Let me finish the story, though.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, I'm swallowing this ice cream, and my throat's starting to really hurt.
Uh-oh.
And I realized by looking down my throat that there's a raw incision there that's scabbing over, right?
Mm.
And this thick ice cream is sticking to that scab in my throat and making it really uncomfortable.
Mm.
And so I went out and I threw the ice cream away, and I bought popsicles, because popsicles are just frozen water. And you get the soothing effect of this cold water with just this juice in it, coating your throat to cool it down, to deaden the pain. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, I go to my follow-up appointment with the doctor. And he walks in, he says, John, how you doing? And I said, open your mouth and stare out your tongue. And he looked at me like, what you talking about, Willis?
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Evglis. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
I said, just do it. I want to see. I want to see your throat. So he goes, I went, aha. He goes, what? I said, you still have your tonsils. And he went, so? And I said, word to the wise, something to start telling your patients. Avoid the ice cream, because all that does is coat the sore, and switch to popsicles, which soothes the irritation.
Yeah.
And he turned to me and he did one of these. Why didn't I think of that? You know, doctors are fallible as well.
That's exactly right.
And they just need someone to hit them upside the head and share something that might help them in their practice.
That's another reason not to hide either. Because the very thing sometimes we hide could be the very thing that could help thousands of people, like your story, or just a doctor, just something that small of, well, they've been to school, I haven't. No, you don't have time. Just share it, and it could change their practice just like that. I love it.
I had to get an MRI from my shoulder because I had fallen. Anyway, so they did a pre-op, and they did a echocardiogram, and the technician said, "Oh, I see something wrong. We should go and you should go see a cardiologist." So I go to see this 90-something-year-old cardiologist.
Wow.
Dr. Chesney. And I walked in, and he said, "All right, John, you got two choices. You can either do a treadmill test for an hour with a mask over your face, and that's covered by your insurance, or you can spend $5,000 on a heart CT. And the heart CT will be, you'll be in and out 15 minutes, and you won't have to get a sweat, but it costs $5,000. And so there I'm negotiating. I'm like, how do I get this so I can afford it? And I said, Dr. Chesney, I really love the idea of the heart CT. But really, $5,000? Yeah, we paid millions of dollars for this equipment. And we recently had a partner meeting where we discussed what we were going to charge to try to recoup our investment in this machine. And that was the number that we came up with. And I said, Dr. Chesney, when I walked into this room today, when I walked into your office, I looked at the door. And your name was on the door. In fact, your name was the first name on the door. This is your practice. You can do whatever the heck you want to do. And he goes, yeah, but my partners, man, they're not going to like it. I said, tough. Who cares what your partners are going to say? You own this practice. They work for you. And he calls his scheduling nurse in and says, okay, John, okay, so-and-so, we're going to charge John $2,000 for the heart CT. She immediately says, but. She says, no buts. My name is on the top of the list on the door. And all of a sudden his cell phone rings. And it's a client, patient. And he hangs up and he's like, I don't understand how all of these patients have my cell phone number. And I'm an IT guy at the time. And I said, Dr. Chesney, do you call everybody after they've had a checkup and check on? He says, yeah, everyone I call. Did you know when you call and you haven't blocked your caller ID that they now know your phone number? And he said, what? And I said, give me your number. And I called it. And my number showed up on his phone. And then I said, give me your phone. And I taught him how to turn off his caller ID on his phone so he could call anonymously moving forward.
Mm.
Just that little hint to make his life manageable.
Yeah.
So that his patients didn't have his cell phone number, that they had to go through the proper channels of talking to a nurse or talking to an answering service just to make his life tolerable, was an amazing gift that I could give this doctor who was 90 plus years old, who didn't understand the technology.
Yeah.
You know, he just giving to other people the benefit of your experience, things that you learned how to do, that in 30 seconds or a minute, you can share secrets to make their lives better. Don't keep those secrets to yourself. Share them every chance you can. Now, as a speaker, you know, they have these glasses that have a heads-up display in them and a teleprompter. And how I use these glasses called the even reality glasses.
No, I've never heard of those.
And I don't make money off of that.
Even reality?
Even realities.
Okay.
And they can put your own prescription if you wear glasses, or you can get them without prescriptions if you don't need glasses.
Wow.
But it has the ability to teleprompt. So you go into your phone and you enter your speech. And it listens to you as you're saying the speech. And the teleprompter goes at the speed you're talking, so you never get lost. And then there's another area for quick notes. And you take your top highlights of your speech and you put them in the quick notes. So if you do somehow get lost and you can't find your place in the script, you just tap a button on the side and up comes your quick contacts of your.
That is so cool. Are those the glasses right there? Are those glasses?
No, these are not the glasses. They're in a different room. But it just gives you this peace that if you do stumble and get tongue-tied, and you don't want to miss an important part, you don't want to go and watch the recording afterward and go, darn, I missed my best point, which happens to all of us when we get in the moment. You know, there's a distraction, or someone asks a question, and you get put off your script a little bit. Well, these glasses are a way to give you the confidence that you can get back on track almost immediate. So anyway, I know we've been on this for a long time, and I would love to hear from your listeners via my website, even if they say, hey, I heard this piece, and boy, I'm going to start practicing that. You need coaching. Set up a free call with me. It doesn't cost you a dime.
Okay.
It costs you an hour of your time. That's it.
Yeah.
But let me share who I am and who you can be if you'll let me help you get there.
Yeah.
To get my book, it's a simple link. johnkippen.com/free gift. It'll ask for your contact info, and then it'll give you a link to download a copy of the book. And if you read it, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what resonated with you. You know, This book is filled with stories, filled with inspirational quotes. There's even an appendix in the back. You know, reading the book, you see a quote and you go, man, I like that quote. I got to remember that quote. So you can immediately go and find that quote that you want to adopt into your everyday speaking. Something that resonated with you.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, quotes from Martin Luther King and Tennessee Williams and Ernest Hemingway and Leo Tolstoy and Steve Jobs and just, you know, Joshua Shipp and Helen Keller. Just amazing inspirational quotes that I've curated over years. That gave me hope, gave me something to think about, gave me an example to follow.
Well, no, that's all good, man. John, this has been fun. And thank you. And for all of those listening, thank you so much for tuning in. And get out there and do it. Get out there and do it. And let's live every day to the fullest. Take care.
Bye.